I never thought I'd be sitting here, in a house that feels way too quiet now, wondering if I'm the villain for destroying my own daughter's marriage. But when your son-in-law breaks into your home at 3 a.m. wearing a mask and a crowbar, all bets are off. The look on his face when he realized that I wasn't the helpless old woman he thought I was, and that the small fortune he was looking for was actually a trap he had been walking into for months, is something I will never forget. I'm going to tell you exactly how it went down, but first, I have to ask you, if you found out your own flesh and blood was helping someone rob you blind, would you call the police, or would you make sure they lost everything first? Let's go back to the beginning so you can understand how we even got to this point, because looking at us from the outside, you would have thought we were the perfect, happy family. I have one daughter, Chloe, and I've spent my entire life making sure she never wanted for anything. After my husband passed away 10 years ago, he left me with a very comfortable estate, a successful consulting business, and a house that he had spent years renovating. I'm not a billionaire, but I'm what most people would call well off. Chloe, on the other hand, always had a bit of a complicated relationship with money. She grew up with it, so she never really learned the value of a dollar. And when she met Mark 4 years ago, I knew right away that he was trouble. Mark was charming, sure, but he was the kind of guy who was always one big deal, away from being a millionaire, yet he never seemed to hold a job for more than 6 months. He had this slick way of talking, always mentioning how much he admired my legacy, and how he couldn't wait to build something similar for Chloe. I saw through it, but Chloe was head over heels. She told me I was being judgmental, and that Mark just needed a chance to prove himself. So, when they got married 3 years ago, I did what any mother would do. I bit my tongue, paid for a massive wedding, and even gave them a substantial down payment for their first home. But the chances never stopped. Over the next 2 years, the requests for money became more frequent and more desperate. It started with the car broke down, and moved to Mark's business partner screwed him over, and we might lose the house. Every time I'd ask to see their finances or a business plan, Mark would get defensive and Chloe would start crying, telling me I didn't trust them. Eventually, I had to set a hard boundary. I told them that the well had run dry and that they needed to live within their means. That's when the atmosphere changed. Mark stopped coming over for Sunday dinners, and Chloe became distant, only calling me when she needed something small, or to vent about how stressed they were. I started noticing things missing from my house, a pair of gold earrings here, a vintage watch there. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself I was just getting older and misplacing things. I'd spend hours tearing apart the living room cushions or checking the pockets of my coats, feeling that cold pit in my stomach grow larger every time I realized another heirloom was gone. These weren't just objects. They were memories of my late husband. Things I intended to pass down to Chloe when she was mature enough to handle them. Seeing her sell my history for Mark's investments felt like a physical blow. But then, a few months ago, I overheard a conversation between them during a rare visit. I had gone into the kitchen to get some tea, and they didn't realize I was standing right outside the door. Mark was whispering, his voice sharp and angry, saying something like, "She's sitting on hundreds of thousands in that safe, Chloe. She doesn't even use it. It's just sitting there while we're drowning. It's going to be yours anyway, so what's the difference if we take a little now?" I waited for Chloe to defend me, to say it was wrong, but all she said was, "I don't know, Mark. What if she catches us? She's smarter than you think." That response from her, that "what if she catches us," was the definitive proof that my daughter was gone. She wasn't worried about the morality of stealing from her mother. She was only worried about the logistics of getting caught. That was the moment the scale fell from my eyes. My own daughter wasn't just being manipulated. She was a participant. They thought I was some senile ATM they could just withdraw from whenever they felt like it. But here's the thing Mark didn't know. I spent 30 years in corporate security and risk management. I didn't get this comfortable by being a pushover. I knew I had to handle this carefully because if I just confronted them, they'd deny it and I'd lose my daughter forever. I needed them to show their true colors. So, I started a little game. I began accidentally mentioning a large sum of cash I had moved into the floor safe in my home office. Money I claimed was from a private sale of some stocks that I didn't want the bank to know about. To sell the lie, I even went to the bank and withdrew a few $1,000s just to let them hear the sound of the teller counting out bills when I was on the phone with Chloe. I made sure they saw me hiding the key in a very obvious spot in the kitchen junk drawer, tucked right under a pile of old takeout menus. I even left out some fake appraisals for jewelry that I said was being kept in the house for a few weeks before going to an auction. I watched Mark's eyes light up every time I mentioned it. He was like a predator smelling blood in the water. For weeks, I played the part of the doting, slightly forgetful mother, all while I was installing high-definition hidden cameras throughout the house and reinforcing the office door with a silent alarm system that would alert my phone the second it was tampered with. I even went as far as to buy a dummy safe that looked identical to my real one, just to ensure that even if he got past the first door, he'd find exactly what I wanted him to see. It's a strange feeling, living in your own home and waiting for someone you love to come and rob you. I'd cook dinner, watch my favorite shows and water my plants, all while knowing that my movements were being studied. I'd see them drive past the house late at night, thinking they were being subtle, not knowing I had license plate recognition software on my front gate. Every night, I'd lie in bed, watching the camera feeds on my tablet, wondering if tonight was the night. I felt a mix of intense grief and cold, hard anger. I kept thinking about Chloe as a little girl, and how I used to hold her hand when she was scared of the dark, and now she was out there plotting with this lowlife to violate the one place I felt safe. I spent hours looking at old photo albums, crying over the person she used to be before Mark poisoned her mind. But then I'd remember the jewelry she took, the lies she told to my face, and my heart would turn back to stone. It's a heavy burden to carry, knowing your family sees you as nothing more than a payday. Before I tell you about the night it actually happened, and the trap I set, I want you to stop and think about this. If you knew your child was planning to steal from you, would you call the cops immediately, or would you try to teach them a lesson yourself? Go ahead and drop a comment right now, because I really need to know if I went too far, or if this was the only way to handle it. The night it happened was a Tuesday. I had told Chloe earlier that day that I was going to be staying overnight at a spa a few hours away to treat myself. I even sent her a fake booking confirmation I'd mocked up on my computer. I made a big show of packing a bag and leaving the house at 5 p.m. In reality, I drove around the block, parked in a neighbor's garage. They were away on vacation and had given me the code, and snuck back into my own house through the basement entrance. I hunkered down in the guest bedroom at the far end of the hall, the one place they wouldn't check. I had my laptop open, watching the feeds. I had snacks, water, and my phone charged to 100%. Around 2:30 a.m., a dark sedan pulled up down the street. Two figures got out. One stayed by the car. That was Chloe, acting as the lookout, and the other, a tall man in a hoodie and a face mask, approached the back door. I watched on the screen as Mark used the spare key I hid under a flower pot. He moved through the house with a confidence that nauseated me. He didn't even try to be quiet at first. He thought the house was empty. He walked straight to the kitchen, grabbed the safe key from the junk drawer, and headed for the office. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. He entered the office and knelt down by the floor safe. I watched him struggle with the lock for a minute before it clicked open. He reached inside, expecting to find the $80,000 in cash and the diamond necklace I had described. Instead, he found an empty box and a single, laminated photograph. It was a picture of him and Chloe at their wedding, with a note written in thick red marker that said, "I hope it was worth it." The moment he picked up the photo, a weight sensor at the bottom of the safe triggered the smart locks I had installed on the office door. The heavy door slammed shut and locked with a series of mechanical bolts. Mark jumped up, panicked, and started throwing his weight against the door, but it was reinforced steel. He was trapped in a room with no windows and only one way out. I walked out of the guest room, turned on every light in the hallway, and stood right outside the office door. I didn't say a word at first. I just let him hear my footsteps. I tapped on the door with my fingernails. "Mark," I said calmly through the door. "You're on camera. I have you from the moment you stepped onto the porch. I have your DNA on the tools you brought. And I have Chloe on the street in the getaway car." I could hear his breathing, heavy and ragged, like a cornered animal. He started pleading, saying it was all a mistake, that they were in trouble and just needed a loan. He even had the audacity to say he was only doing it because he wanted to buy me a nice gift for my birthday and didn't have the money. I laughed, a cold, sharp sound that echoed in the hallway. I told him the police were already on their way, which was a lie. I wanted to see if he'd give Chloe up first. And he did. Within 30 seconds of me mentioning the cops, he started screaming that Chloe was the one who told him where the key was, that it was her idea, that she was the one who hated me and wanted the money. It was pathetic. He was ready to throw the woman he supposedly loved under the bus just to save his own skin. I walked to the front door and opened it. Chloe was standing on the porch, looking like she'd seen a ghost. She had seen the lights go on and realized the plan had gone south. She started crying. "Mom, please, we were just desperate. We didn't mean to hurt you. Mark said it would be okay." I looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing for her but pity. I told her that I had recorded everything Mark had just said about her, how he blamed her for everything the second he was caught. I played the audio back through my phone, so she could hear his frantic voice calling her the mastermind. The look of betrayal on her face was almost as satisfying as the look on his. I didn't end up calling the police that night, but I made them wait. I sat them both down in the living room once I let Mark out of the cage. I sat in my husband's old leather chair with a thick folder on my lap. I had everything, every missing item, every pawn shop receipt I'd tracked down using a private investigator, and every text message they'd sent to each other about my stash. I made them a deal. I told them I would hand over all the footage to the authorities unless they signed a legal document right then and there. I had a lawyer friend prep a family settlement that basically stated they would never ask me for a cent again. They would forfeit any claim to my inheritance, and Mark would sign over his portion of the house I helped them buy so that Chloe would at least have a roof over her head when she inevitably divorced him. I also made sure they knew that if they ever stepped foot on my property again, the footage goes straight to the DA. Mark signed those papers so fast his hand was shaking. He didn't even look at Chloe. He was gone within the hour, took his car and whatever clothes he could fit in a bag, and I haven't seen him since. Chloe stayed for a bit, trying to apologize, but I told her I needed space, maybe forever. I realized that night that I hadn't just saved my money. I had saved myself from a lifetime of being a victim. I spent the next few days changing the locks, upgrading the security system even further, and sitting in the silence of my home. It's a different kind of quiet now. It's not the lonely quiet of a widow. It's the peaceful quiet of a woman who finally stood her ground. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. She chose a snake over her mother, and he chose his own freedom over her. The house is quiet now, but it feels cleaner. I lost a daughter in a way, but I gained my peace of mind back. I realized that you can't save people who are determined to sink, even if you're the one who gave them the boat. It was a hard lesson to learn, but at least I'm not the one behind bars, and I'm definitely not the one who got played. I hope this story serves as a reminder to always trust your gut, even when it's telling you something you don't want to hear about the people closest to you. If you think I did the right thing by trapping them instead of just calling the cops, hit that like button, and let me know you're on my side. It's been a rough few months, and your support really means a lot. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story, because believe me, this isn't the only drama I've had to deal with lately. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'll be reading through them to see what you all think. I'll see you all in the next story.